They say you chose it. They say you knew better. They say you should have left sooner, should have been clever, should have read the signs like warning letters. But they don't know the weather of manipulation. They never felt the pressure of persuasion. Never saw how patience can be weaponized, how a trafficker studies pain like a scientist through a microscope, looking for the weakest side. They see the outcome, but they never saw the setup, never saw the slow build before the breakdown, before the threats, before the debt, before the silence that followed every no you said. See, traps rarely look like cages. Sometimes they look like compliments. You're beautiful. You're different. You're very mature for your age. Words wrapped like gifts but filled with blades. Sometimes it's attention that feels like affection. Sometimes it's protection that becomes possession. Sometimes it's the only person who said they cared, turning into the one who kept you scared. But the world looks at survivors and asks questions like weapons. Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you scream? Why didn't you run? Like trauma comes with instructions, and survival is supposed to be easy for everyone. But survival is messy. It's shaking hands and heavy breathing. It's doing what you must to just make it through the evening. It's learning how to stay alive inside a mental cage that no one else is seeing. And somehow they call that a choice. They call that a decision. They call that consent when it was actually coercion disguised as permission. Listen, to every survivor who was blamed for someone else's crime, your survival is not a confession. It's evidence of strength that refused to die. They tried to bury your story under shame, tried to make your name synonymous with blame. But shame is just a shadow cast by someone else's evil sin. And today, we're stepping out of it. Because trafficking isn't just chains. It's manipulation that rewires your brain. It's isolation, intimidation, domination of someone else's pain. It's someone learning your wounds just to profit from the scars, turning broken trust into a business model built behind closed cars and hotel bars. So when the world says, prove it, when the world says, doubt it, when the world says, that doesn't happen here, let me say this so clear. You never have to question who's standing near. I believe you. Not because belief is easy, but because this belief is how the system survives. Traffickers don't just rely on silence. They rely on a world that questions victims more than it questions lives. So to the survivor who feels invisible, the one who thinks their voice is too small for the fight, hear this, my friend. You are not the scandal. You are not the shame. You are not the headline they try to attach to your name. You are the proof that darkness didn't win. Because you are still breathing in a world that tried to bury you in it. And if the world never stood beside you when you needed someone there, let this moment be the answer to that prayer. Because if the world stands silent, I will stand loud. And if the world turns its back, I will stand proud. And if the world points fingers, I will stand between them. Because justice doesn't begin in courtrooms or convictions, although that is needed. But it begins in the moment someone finally says, I see them, and I see you. Not the rumors, not the lies, not the labels they tried to disguise you inside. I see the strength it took to stay alive. So if the world debates Epstein files and powerful names, just know something. My fight is to never be about fame. My fight is always about you, the forgotten, the doubted, the one who carried truth while the world shouted them down. I need you to hear something, not whispered, not hidden, but spoken so loud, even shame has to listen. You were never the villain in someone else's crime. You were a human being, the imago Dei of God, forced to survive. And if no one stood beside you when the darkness came through, then hear my voice now. I stand with you, not above you, not in front of you, but with and beside you. As long as voices like mine refuse to stay quiet, you will never stand alone again. But they said, why didn't you leave? But the better question is, why did a predator feel comfortable enough to stay? People ask survivors to explain their trauma, but we rarely ask traffickers to explain their evil. Somehow the wounded ended up on trial, while the wolves walk free. Maybe the problem is this: we interrogate the wounded and excuse the wolves.